What's up, guys? Rick from DFS On Demand here with the betting preview for this week's Waste Management Open. A couple of things. We are going to go through this tournament predictor project that I've been working on where we try to determine how likely it is for each golfer to get to the winning score, thus trying to find a value, if there is one, in their betting odds. And then additionally, I pushed a new update to the head-to-head betting tool. So we're going to talk about some head-to-head stuff. We'll throw in some top fives and we'll just see where this thing takes us. So let's not waste any more time. Let's jump into the betting board. All right, so if you are new to this, welcome. What you're looking at right now is basically a very scaled down version of a tool that I'm working on that my goal is to use this to help predict the likelihood of a golfer to get to the winning score. Again, I'll clarify this every week because I know people are going to ask questions about it. This is not predicting the odds that someone wins a golf tournament. It is predicting, or at least trying to predict, how often they will get to the winning score. If they get to the winning score and someone goes nuts and beats it by 5 strokes, obviously they're not going to win. You could have multiple people get to what we deem to be the winning score before the week starts. So that's what we're going to do. This was pretty cool last couple of weeks. And then, as I mentioned, I'm going to expand this out outside of just outside of just winning to top 5, top 10, top 20. Haven't had a chance to do that yet. I spent 2 days at the Farmers. I was on site there last week, so got a little bit behind. So I'll still work on that for future weeks, but there's some things I want to talk about here. So first of all, I've loaded in the field. I've loaded in everything, and we have to figure out what this winning score is going to be. So I'm going to head over to the historic strokes gained tool here on DFS On Demand, which is my site, and I've got the Waste Management open, and I'm just going to look back at this. So Ricky Fowler won this last year, gaining 15 strokes on the field. In 2018. Gary Woodland and Chez Reavie looks like they went to a playoff at also 15 strokes gained on the field. And then in 2017, it was 13.2 for Hideki and Webb. So needless to say, we're probably in that 13, 14, 15 strokes gained range. Since the last 2 years have been 15, and TPC Scottsdale tends to play pretty consistent year over year. Let's change the score to 15 strokes gained and see what comes out. What you will immediately notice is that Jon Rahm's win target, the amount of time that he gets to the winning score, is only 2% of the time, which is kind of crazy because his Vegas implied odds are him winning about 14% of the time. So he would be the worst value that you can bet. He's 6-1. I'm also using decimal odds here, so you don't have to tweet at me and say you said 6-1, but your sheet says 7-1. It's decimal odds, so that's what we're looking at. Rahm is really interesting. So if you go to his player profile, I kind of didn't believe this because I was like, how is it that Jon Rahm cannot get to 15 strokes gained? And what we've seen is basically the fact that he's never done it, which is kind of crazy. So even in his wins, and this is where the data gets a little bit off, his wins came at the Farmers Insurance Open and the Career Builder over the last 3 years, I think I have up right now. The problem with those is the Farmers, you miss one round of measured data, the round that they play the North Course. And in the Career Builder, you miss 2 of the rounds. That is now the Desert Classic, the Amex, the American Express. So these are all the tournaments that have just happened in like the last 2 weeks. We don't have the full data on that event because it's a 3-course rotation and only 1 course has shot link data. So in the weeks that he probably would have, so like if we just, take the Career Builder, double it, right? Because we only have 2 rounds of data there. Maybe he gains 12 that week instead of 6. And then maybe for the Farmers, add 3 or 4 to that. Like he probably would have gotten close to 15 that week. But the way the data is coming into this, and this might be a flaw that I have to work through, is that it really underestimates Jon Rahm's ability to get there, because in the weeks that he has actually won, we don't have the full data for that. So, just for Jon Rahm alone, let's just look at if we called the winning score 12. Yeah, Rahm's number jumps up. It still doesn't get to the point of him being a really good value, but he gets to a 12 strokes gained about 8.5% of the time. So, 4 times more likely to get there. So Rahm might be skewed here because his really good events and his wins have come in weeks that we don't have the data. What I might want to do, see, this is the stuff that we can kind of think through here. I might want to do this per round. And just do it per measured round, and then I'd have to figure out I don't know if I could just multiply it by 4 or something like that, right? But Rahm is probably going to be a little bit lower than he should here. Okay, so anyway, let's get back to 15, and you'll see there's a lot of guys. So when we go to 15, the golfer most likely to get there is Justin Thomas. He gets there a little over 5% of the time. It is still not on par with his implied Vegas odds, which have him winning this event 9.5% of the time. So probably not betting him there. Then you get 2 of the actual values. So really quickly, guys that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. There are 14 golfers that the way that this reads is there are 14 or 13 golfers, whatever I just counted, who are going to get to the winning score more often than the implied odds that Vegas is affording them. That is the way to read this. And the top guys, the ones with the best chance of getting to that score, Matt Kuchar, currently 30-1, which means his implied odds to win this are about 3.2%. He gets to the winning score of 15 strokes gained about 3.5% of the time. So it is a small value, but in theory, there is a value there. Bigger value, Kevin Na. He might be the biggest value on the board. Let's see. Yeah. Kevin Na, biggest value on the board. He gets to this number because look at Kevin Na and how volatile he is. Actually, let me go back to the win. Let me sort by this column here because I think this is going to be... this is going to be better. I'm still getting used to this too. I've got to clean it up a little bit. Kevin Na. Kevin Na and Matt Kuchar basically have the same ceiling, but Kevin Na's floor is way lower than Matt Kuchar's floor is. So the range of outcomes for Kevin Na significantly wider than someone like Matt Kuchar, which is interesting because those guys who pop off once or twice a year or 3 times a year, they're the ones that you get a lot of value in the 40s, 50s, 60s, whatever they're priced at. Kevin Na, this is 85-1. I'm using DraftKings Sportsbook. Those odds are always usually pretty good. I don't know if you could actually go out and find Kevin Na at 85. You can probably get him at I thought I saw him at 80 or I don't know, 66 or something like that. I'll check, but 3.5% of the time he's going to get to the winning number. So he's 2% more than the implied value. So that's or his implied win odds, which is what that value number that you're seeing is. Moving down a little further, you've got Ches Reavie on this list. Makes sense. Nate Lashley, Sung Kang. Sung Kang played well last week too. Andrew Putnam. Adam Hadwin, I believe he's got a little baby swag. Kevin Streelman always seems to show up here because same thing. Kevin Streelman's range of outcomes so massive, but that also includes the upside as well. He's not getting to this number 1% of the time, but it's still more than what Vegas says he should get there. Here's Hideki. Can we go look at Hideki real quick? Because the model thinks he only gets to 15 strokes gained less than 1% of the time. Is that even possible? Let's go find Hideki and see what's going on with him. Obviously he's won this event, so all right. His best strokes gained numbers. Oh, I know why. Because I'm only so this is the other part of this tool. So when you get your hands on this tool, when I make this available on DFS on demand, you can kind of go through all this and figure it out. The top 4 strokes gain rounds that Hideki has ever, I shouldn't say has ever had, in the last 4 years, are all from 2017. His 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, they're all from 2019. So actually, if you go back to my tool, and right now I'm only using since January 1st of 2019, if you open this up, I bet you Hideki jumps up the list here. Yeah, he does. So if I go back to 2016, and I've just got to correct my columns here. There we go. If I go back to 2016, you can see Hideki's number basically triples. He's still not getting, he's getting there 2.7% of the time, but that's, what was he before? 0.7, almost quadruples. So yeah, that's kind of part of this. You need to think, how many, how far back do I want to go? How many starts do I want to go back to put into this calculation? Because it is going to impact things in a big way. If we do go back the full weight of what I'm showing you here, like Ricky Fowler is back in play, Justin Thomas much closer to the value number that he should be. Brian Harmon is now in the list of guys who have value. Kevin Chappell is in here. Of course, Siwoo Kim is in here because he went nuts at the Players one year. So like Jordan Spieth is in here. That's pretty funny. So like you have to decide what these are for you. For me, I do like the more recent stuff, the 2019 stuff. So I'm going to stick with that. And then when I get this on the site, you can kind of go from there. But yeah, I mean, some of these guys make sense. I don't know if I'll actually be betting them outright. Kevin Na, I might throw a little number on depending on where I can find him. But really cool tool that I'm looking forward to rolling out for you. Quick thing, really quick, as I was doing some research for this show, Ben On, his name is very close in my model, and like I like him this week. It is, I know his name is popping up all over the industry, and his outright number has actually been bet down. So he opened at, I believe, 80, and I saw him now down at 66 to 1 because guys like you and me have gone out and bet him and moved his number. However, his top 5 number has not moved, at least at the time of recording this, and I was able to get in on it. Where he was still 14 to 1 to finish in the top 5, which is the same number as the rest of the 80 to 1 guys. So his outright number shrank, but his top 5 number held. So in theory, there is value on that top 5 side of it. I went and bet that. So be creative here. Think about it. And again, you might not care. Like 66 to 1 is still a great number if it hits. But if you really do care about getting like the best number and now you feel like you missed out, like, that's fine. I still bet the 66 to be quite honest with you, but I also bet the top 5 because that was the better side of it in my opinion. But obviously I'll still take the 66 to 1. Additionally, let's see what else we have here. Let's go to the new head-to-head betting matchups tool here. So this is always a work in progress. This is something that I've had on the site before that I just redid. And clearly I've got a little formatting issue down there at the bottom, but I'll fix that. The tool still works, no problem. This is kind of my evolution or my take on work that I believe Data Golf has done in the past. I know Joe Pita, I believe, included this in his master's book for last year, I want to say. And basically what it does is it has strokes gain. It uses the strokes gained number, and there's a calculation involved that when you pit 2 guys together over a 4-round tournament, you can come up with the probability that one golfer beats another golfer. That is the short of it. So what I like to do is I like to use this to go and see what the matchups are, plug them in, and see if there is actually some edge in it. So just to show you what I'm talking about here, I've got the tournament odds on the right. So I'm just going to plug some of these in and just see what happens. So I'll just go down the list here. J.B. Holmes versus Zach Johnson. Let's see if I can pull up these numbers. And you'll see I can just plug these guys in. And the way that I have this, I have Zach Johnson winning a 4-round matchup. That's important. This is not a single round. This is a 4-round matchup. So a tournament matchup. 63% of the time, which would put his money line at about -170. Now you introduce juice into this. You're probably talking, I don't know, he might be -185, something like that, because you have to pay more on it. But in theory, he's going to win this 63% of the time. Well, the odds that I'm showing over here is that Zach Johnson is -140 in this matchup. So if I look at that, I have a guy who I have at minus 170, who I think is going to win it 63% of the time. And the book that I'm looking at has it much shorter than that. Like, to me, that makes Zach Johnson a bet, right? Now you can go through and see how that compares against the other matchups. And what I like about this is you can actually do the same thing that we did on that tournament predictor. You can decide what range of strokes gain data do you want to use. So for example, I'm still using that January 1st, 2019 number. If I go back a little bit further, if I go to like, the start of 2018, it gets a little bit closer. Zach Johnson wins this 57% of the time. And then you can see right here how many measured rounds we're using to calculate this. So now Zach Johnson has 123 measured rounds. JB Holmes has 119 measured rounds. Let's see who else we have here. Justin Thomas minus 140 against Webb Simpson. Let's see what we have here. Justin Thomas, and we'll do Webb. And I'm gonna move it back to my. I like the January 1st, 2019 thing. You can decide what works for you, but that's what I like. So let's do this. Actually fairly close here. Almost a coin flip. Justin Thomas, I have at 51%, Webb Simpson at 48. So online, I see Justin Thomas being minus 140 and Webb Simpson being plus 120. So if I'm looking at this, I'm saying, okay, I think this is close to a coin flip, and Webb Simpson is plus 120, the plus side of it. That would be the side that I would probably take there. They are relatively close. Some of them you'll see, I'm not going to go through all 40 or 50 of these, but some of them are much further apart, right? Some of them you're going to have big differences. Some of the, because when in head-to-head matchups, I don't even know if I could find one. Like who's been awesome recently? Like, let's do Rory, although I don't know what like Rory's been awesome recently, right? So him being 65% against Justin Thomas since January 1st, 2019. Like when you start getting into the 60s, like that's a pretty significant number. You're still going to lose quite a bit, but those are pretty big numbers when you talk head-to-head matchups. You rarely get guys that are like minus 200. So keep that in mind. But this is a really fun tool that I like to go. And I've used it for deciding between two golfers in my DraftKings lineup, to be quite frank. Just to kind of compare two golfers. This is a really good way to do it. So that's my take on the strokes gained prediction model for a 4-round tournament. We covered outrights, covered some top 5 stuff, and I'll continue to make upgrades to that predictor tool for top 5, top 10, top 20. Hopefully I'll have that up on the site at some point so you guys can mess around with it. But I really hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what you think. Tweet me. It's at RickRunGood or leave a comment below. I'll talk to you guys soon. Good luck this week.